So first, what we need to do is detail an erection view. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm at the home screen right now, so I'm going to go ahead and just launch into modeling. And once our modeling opens up, I'm just going to go ahead and open a view. I'll open my anchor bolt framing plan view. And then what we need to do is we need to navigate to our drawings page. And then in the placement section is where we can find our detail erection views. So if we hover over that tool, it says detail erection views. I'm going to go ahead and select this. And this will bring up a window. It wants us to select an erection view that we want to detail. So the first thing is we can see that we don't have any views that show up in this window. And the reason that is because all of our views, when we created them, we marked them for detailing. So the first thing we'll need to do is go down here to the bottom for our filter, and we'll need to check on show for detailing. So it places them in that separate list there. And now once that filter is checked on, we can see all of our erection views that we have created. So first we're going to take a look at some different settings inside of our detail erection views. So what we need to do before we can get into settings is choose a view that we want to detail. So in our case, we're going to choose anchor bolt framing plan. And now we can go over here to the right and click on settings. And this is going to bring up our detail erection view defaults. So we'll go through our detail erection view defaults window and look at some of the different settings we can set up for when detailing erection views. Now these can either be set up by default, or you can do this on a view by view basis. If I were to go back and look, we also have different methods of detailing erection views. Right now, these settings we are taking a look at are going to deal with the automatic method, and we'll take a look at how to detail an erection view manually. But first, let's just go through this window here. So in our Appearance tab, we have our steel member style first. We can either specify if we want that to show as stick, wire, solid, or if we want a combination of stick and wire, or stick and solid. If we had concrete members in here, we can also choose if we want those to show as hidden, stick, wire, solid, stick and wire, or stick and solid. And then off to the right, if we were to choose one of those styles, we can choose our line styles here as well. So on the left, we have our member type. If you have a concrete wall, you can check this on. And once this is checked on, that allows you to pick the different line style. I'm going to just leave these set to default, and I'm going to say cancel here. Below that, we have our rebar material style. Below that, we have our 3D hidden line style. We can choose if we want to have those removed, if we want them dashed, or if we want those as solid lines. Right now, I'm just going to keep that as removed. We also have the option to show 3D main member material. So in our case, for most of our columns, we have them input as our UCS material. That's what that would be. We have the same option to show our 3D submaterial. That would be any material that would be connected to those columns or any member. We have the ability to show 3D shop bolts and field bolts. We can show 3D holes, shop welds, field welds. We can show our stair outline. We can show shear tab location on erection views. If we had concrete members in here, we could show concrete hatching, and we can change the scale of that hatching in this window here. We could set a status display criteria in here, which we won't do at this moment. We can look at that a little bit later on in the training. We can show crane placements and show the steel laydown for that. And we have the ability to move grid lines for crane placement. Up at the top here, we can reset member line pins. If we have an existing member pin, we can change the color of that existing member pin, and we can also change our existing member line type. As you can see, these fields are grayed out because these options are not checked on. As soon as I check these options on, it gives us the ability to specify something different there. We can show vertical braces that are not in this plane. We can either show them as is, we can show, or we can hide. We can do the same for horizontal braces. For our member orientation indicators, do we want to show all, none, conditional, or as is? If that is set to conditional, we can specify our conditions there. In this case, we're going to show all. And then down here at the bottom, we have the option, where applicable, generate individual rebars instead of rebar run objects when the associated number of runs is less than or equal to our number that you want to specify. And again, this isn't going to really matter for us since we don't have any rebar in this view. Next, we'll take a look at our Annotations tab. So at the very top here, under Annotations, we have Remove Drawing Annotations. We can have that either set to None, System, or All. And this is going to apply when redetailing erection views. So if we were to have already had this erection view detailed, and say this is our second time going through and detailing it, or we are redetailing this view, if we would leave this set to None and have this Annotate Erection Views box checked on, it wouldn't remove any of the drawing annotations that were previously set. So therefore you would have double of your dimensions and double of your system drawing annotations. So we'll look at that a little bit closer when we get into redetailing erection views. For now, being that this is the first time this view is being detailed, we can just leave that set to None. Down below here, we have our checkbox that says Annotate Erection Views. Below that, we have an option to dimension grids above and left of a structure. And if we have that checked on, we can add an overall dimension with above left grid dimensions. Below that, we have dimension grids below and right of structure. And again, if that's checked on, we have that option to add the overall dimension. We can add overall dimension to section view grids. We can annotate finite grid lines in place. We have the ability to show grid names on non-plan views. And then we can show height of our secondary grid bubbles. Do we want those to be the same as our primary grid bubbles, or do we want them to be below our primary grid bubbles? Below that, we have an option that we will want to use for our particular erection view since this is the anchor bolt plan. So this is our option to dimension anchor bolt layout. I will go ahead and check that on. And with this checked on, we can show bottom of base plate elevation as an absolute, or do we want that as a reference? We can specify below here what our bottom of base plate prefix is. So in here, we can type in anything we want our prefix to be. In this case, I'm going to leave that as B/BP space EL for bottom of base plate elevation. Below that, do we want to scale anchor bolt layout? And then we have a scale factor below that. In this case, I'm not going to scale our anchor bolt layout. Below that, we can explode our erection view. Do we want to generate named locations? And do we want to detail with revisions? Back up at the top, we can change our character height for grid bubble labels. We can change our minimum piece mark and section size height allowed. We can change how to show elevation on member. Do we want that as an absolute, a reference, or do we not want to show that? Below that, we can show on our erection views. Do we want to show camber on our members? Do we want to show custom properties on our members? We can show section size on custom members. We can denote non-standard material. Do we want to show number of studs on members? Do we want to see the member number on our erection views? We can show non-standard field bolts, and we can show field welds. And if we are showing field welds, do we want to show the field weld lengths? So now that we're done here, let's go ahead and go to our piece marks tab. First, we have the option to check overriding of piece marks and section sizes. So if this option is checked on, the system will automatically go through, and if you have piece marks or section sizes that are overlapping one another, or if it's a really busy erection view where it doesn't have a lot of space and things are touching each other, it'll try to go through and put those piece marks and section sizes into a place where they're not overlapping one another. Do we want to relocate piece marks and other member labels to default locations? So with this second checkbox, if we were redetailing a view, if this was checked on, this would relocate all of our piece marks and other member labels back to the default locations. If you were to had moved them around the first time when you detailed the erection view, then this option would move those piece marks and other labels back. Below that, we can allow member piece marks to break lines and wire member edges. We have the option to always hide joist piece marks. We can include base plate minor piece marks on anchor bolt layouts. And then off to the right, for our cross section marks, we can show our new piece marks. We can show, for our old piece marks, we can either show as is, show, or hide. And then the same for our section sizes. And then down below here, we have the same exact options for our non-cross section marks. The last thing we're going to go ahead and change before we say OK to this window is we're going to go back to our Appearance tab. And then for our steel member style, we're going to change that from stick to wire. So once you've made that change, you can go ahead and say OK to this window. And now we're going to go ahead and say OK to this window as well, since we were only in the settings option there. We only want to have our anchor bolt framing plan selected, since that's the one we want to detail. So once I say OK to this here, the system will go through and generate that erection view. As you can see here, the process is done with generating that erection view. So we have two different options for this window, and this option will be available in some other similar windows as we continue on in the training. If we choose to say close when done, the next time an erection view will be generated, this option will remain checked on, and it will automatically close this window when it is done creating that erection view. So if I check this on right here, it's just going to go ahead and automatically close that window for us. And then the next time we generate an erection view, that window will not pop up. You may see it for a short period of time, but it will automatically close it for us.